Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a milestone 150th episode of the Byte That Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for stopping by and checking out the show. Remember, we are available every single week, every single Tuesday night of that week, as a matter of fact, on all of the available podcast platforms, including iTunes and our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ByteThatCast, where we have over 500 videos. And for this jam-packed, incredibly special episode, we're all here. So my name is Juan Velez. I am from the Shining Star of the Caribbean, and with me, welcoming these gentlemen right now, from Boston, Massachusetts, Ryan McNulty, and from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, Keith M. the GM Poshik. Guys, are you ready? This is happening. We've hyped this up.
150,
and we are
baby.
Here.
It's
Woo!
150. I'm excited. I'm running on 3 hours of sleep right now, but I'm very excited. So if I'm like a human equivalent of a train wreck, I apologize.
That doesn't seem healthy. You okay, buddy?
Oh, I'm good. You know, sometimes you just have a long night.
It's part of it. It's part of it. It was also a pretty lengthy weekend, but gang, as we've mentioned, this is a groundbreaking episode. We're going to have all the traditional discussion as we head over to the WWE draft taking place on July 19th. Keep in mind, the podcast will be recorded a day later on July 20th. That is a Wednesday night, so most of you will be listening there or on Thursday mornings, but we're going to be talking about a couple of things regarding the future of Byte That. But before that, let's sort of talk about the special July 4th, the patriotic edition of Monday Night Raw, beginning with your feedback. Byte That Cast. We have the patented out of 4 rating scale.
I'm already laughing at this one.
Yeah, let's just say that I didn't really choose the best wording for the worst option.
I think it's a little skewed this week.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
So I wrote it was booty for 1 out of 4, 1 being the worst. So by default, people chose that. So it's hard to measure if people actually hated this episode of Raw or if they just like the word booty. But 65% said 1 out of 4 was booty. 21% gave it a 2 out of 4, saying it was all right. Only 4% saying it was good. And 10% saying it was great. So considering that the spectrum is on both sides, yeah, I'm kind of thinking I got to change my wording. Now, based on this scale, what did you guys think of the show and where would you rank it?
Raw was not nearly this bad.
No,
really?
It wasn't booty.
You don't think it was booty? I thought it was pretty booty.
I think people just wanted to vote because it said booty. There's been far worse Raws in the past, several months. So I actually didn't think this was that bad of an episode. Sometimes you get those Raws where there's almost nothing to take away. And I thought there was a lot more to take away from this episode than some others.
But yes, I agree with you that there was a lot to take away from this Raw, but as a non-American, I just couldn't handle the whole patriotic 4th of July thing. It was a little too much this week.
But Keith, we kind of got the League of Nations back. Some kind of version of it, and people were confused.
Weird expanded
Is that a comeback anyone's been waiting for?
Man, that reunion! People were hyped up about it. It was weird, because even myself, I'm from Puerto Rico, part of the U.S., still, it's like a little bit too much patriotism. I get it. That is the day, although it's weird. Ryan and I were watching Raw together, and for a global phenomenon known as the WWE, it's weird how they have a match in the main event that's basically, hey, we are the USA, and you, my friend, you're everything else that's not us. It's a little weird. You can
basically play the theme to Team America World Police behind that match, and that's what they were going for.
Yeah, they like to say how much of a global company they are, and then they do stuff like this. I mean, it's July 4th. You can give them a pass this week, but it's not like they don't love to do that, America rah storyline, because they do at least like one a year.
So what about food fights? That's American, right? I mean, Keith, have you ever been involved in a food fight?
I've actually never been involved in a food fight. So maybe it is an American thing.
Do you want to?
Kind of not really. It seems disgusting, honestly.
A lot of food being wasted.
And exactly. I just saw that segment like, oh my God, all this good food is being wasted. And it's such a crime and a shame.
But we did get some good things.
I want to eat it all.
But like you got to bring up Cesaro and Apollo Crews arm wrestling throughout all of it, and then Kevin Owens going underneath that table with the Lay's bag. I mean, that was good, right? That was
and apparently
good.
Fandango is just spraying whipped cream on himself.
I missed
Primo
that,
Mepico
but that's
were on Raw.
amazing.
Not that anybody cares about, but I mean, they were there.
I think that silence was everything.
Yeah, the food fight, it's a fun thing, you know. I do appreciate they got it out of the way because traditionally they hype it up. It's like it doesn't stop, and they just got it out of the way. And even though this Raw was a little bit ridiculous as it is, you know, every now and then, the key things that we got that were really good were really, really good, as is the title for the podcast, you know, which is this the end of the New Day? But we're going to be getting to that. Now, I want to take a quick pit stop here and talk about the overall feel about Raw when it comes to the match types. As Ryan and I were talking yesterday, we sort of brought up the question, when's the last time you really anticipated or looked forward to a match on Raw? And my answer was the John Cena US Open Challenge, where for every week, it didn't matter that Cena was going to win. You were guaranteed that great match, and there was always the small possibility that John Cena could lose the championship. But ever since that, it seems like the great match that we tended to have on Raw is just part of the show and doesn't really feel like it. What about you guys? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, but I think that's how it should be in a way, because I've always said that Raw, SmackDown, they should be about progressing the stories more than the actual matches themselves, and then leave the matches for the pay-per-views. The matches that you're looking forward to, save that for the big shows, and not the actual the big show, because we look forward to that.
Thanks for clarifying.
But so you have those matches, whether they be X versus Y, and as long as a story is progressing forward, then they're doing what they're supposed to do on Raw. So yeah,
that feeling of anticipation though was a good way to motivate you to kind of be invested in Raw. But I also agree with Keith, you just have to feel like there is a purpose, I think, and as long as that's there, that definitely makes the show a lot more watchable. But like, my level of interest in Raw has definitely in the last year gone down, which things, you know, it's nice to have things to look forward to, like the John Cena Open Challenge, or when, you know, John Cena was going to fight CM Punk to see who got to go to WrestleMania. Even if the outcome was going to be obvious, that was still a highly anticipated match. But maybe part of the reason there's not so many anticipated matches on Raw, or sometimes even pay-per-views, is because they don't like to save matches anymore. This Shield Triple Threat, I think, is one of the most anticipated matches in a long time, because it seems like this is the one matchup that they've actually saved, and they're finally going to give it to us.
At Battleground.
Whatever, man. I mean, think about this. I mean, who the hell gives a damn about Battleground? Well, let's throw a match everyone's been waiting for on it to get people interested. People are going to watch SummerSlam anyway. Give them something they're not expecting at a B-level show.
You know, that's very true. Didn't they do that with Battleground last year as well, with Brock Lesnar versus Seth Rollins? Was that Battleground?
Yeah, they did. That was Battleground, where Undertaker interfered. Yep.
I think it's just, and I completely agree, the basic premise of most WWE pay-per-view names, like, forget about the match cards. You look at the names Backlash, Hell in a Cell is an odd example, but the In Your Houses, right? Rock Bottom. These shows were directly about, this is the storyline, this is what's happening, there was betrayal, something happened, this show's about The Rock and his progress. There was this feeling that although every match was important, or, you know, you look forward to it, this show was about The Rock, this was about Stone Cold. You look back at most of the cards, and you hit the nail on the head, Ryan, with the network. You don't have that, so what you get is everything gets spread around on all the shows, on every single show. And with that, you sort of lose that mystique of, oh man, I can't wait for Backlash for all the things that are going to be happening, because what used to happen on Backlash just happens the night after WrestleMania on Raw, right? So there's no incentive to really care about that. And hypothetically, that's great if you're a consumer, that you're not spending money on that pay-per-view, but that journey, right? You kind of want to wait a little bit for that. And that's not there And that's something that I do really miss.
So do you think it's going to get better with the draft? Because they do have less TV time to fill with each show being separate.
Definitely. I mean, there's... Okay, here's the real conversation. It all depends on the writing, right? We can have the best roster in both shows. We have a great roster right now, but the whole thing is, you know, whatever happens on Raw, they carried it over on SmackDown, and then what happens on SmackDown, they repeat it on Raw, rinse, wash, and repeat. You're getting rid of that now, so theoretically, it should be 3 hours worth of storytelling, so when they get to the pay-per-view, you really care about it. And if the pay-per-views do become brand exclusive, even though we're going to get 2 pay-per-views in a month, which doesn't really solve the problem that we're having right now, in some way, that has to force them to not have that match on Raw. You can't have those two guys touching each other on Raw. The word selection was not right there, but it is still the same premise. Because then why do you care about the pay-per-view?
No, it's true. There's a lot of things that could help with the brand split if it's done right, which we hope it is. First of all, by separating the rosters, you actually do create anticipation for matchups of people on separate brands when they finally eventually cross paths. So that's always cool. And then, yeah, you hopefully assume that, okay, you have shows where you have to spend time with these certain characters, that maybe all of these characters that are on these shows are actually going to get developed more. They're going to get more interesting storylines, because you don't have to write about Roman Reigns being on Raw, and you don't have to write his story on SmackDown. You just have to worry about that one Roman Reigns story on Raw or wherever he ends up, and then you can focus on Kevin Owens on SmackDown or whatever. So it should develop the characters further, and then the feud should be more interesting. So this is all in the ideal world that we wish would happen, but we'll have to see how reality pans out, because confidence levels, I think, aren't very high.
Keith, question about this for you. Based on what Ryan said, that is a lot of content to consume, right? But let's move that conversation to the side, because I think what he's planting there is pretty good, right? You get a bunch of shows with a bunch of great, unique storylines with proper build-up.
Yeah.
Even if that is a lot of time and you can't necessarily watch it live, but maybe you watch the recap on the network even a month later, is that something you care about?
Absolutely. I mean, if it's interesting television, then you feel compelled to watch it, right? It's the same. It's basically the same premise of how I can go back and watch 2 months worth of NXT in one day, just because it's all interesting. It's fun to watch. Yeah, I didn't get to see it live, but I'll still take the time, commit the time to go do it. So as long as they keep the stories compelling and interesting, then I think it's way better than having just a half-assed show.
So as we get closer to the draft, we may have a little bit of a fun conversation about what ifs, right? We had a video where Ryan moderated about our draft, but where do we really think guys like John Cena and Kevin Owens and the Club and the New Day are going to end up? So maybe about in a week, 2 weeks' time, we have that conversation. Now, I do want to shift gears to sort of an interesting topic that's happening with the women's division. So we had an in-ring promo between Charlotte and Sasha Banks. Now, me watching this, I thought, and I know that this is not the popular opinion, I even sent out some voting, and I was definitely in the minority, that Charlotte sounded better in the promo. I just thought that Sasha Banks sounded very piped in. Like, it's not the Sasha. I'm saying that Sasha is my overall favorite performer in WWE. Overall, male and female. Like, I kind of cried during one of her matches in NXT, admittedly so. Some people may disrespect me about that. I don't care. I kind of did. So keep that in mind while I say this. Did anybody else sort of get that? I mean, not to get nitpicky here, but I do think it's interesting how you have the babyface boss character and they're trying to make that work. I don't think it's maybe a problem with Sasha as it is that the boss, to me, is a bad female character, you know, a heel, and it's weird as a babyface.
With Sasha Banks, she's kind of, like I've said before, they haven't done a whole lot until now with her on Raw itself. So she's kind of just being positioned off of the crowd hype, and she hasn't really had enough time to develop on the main roster. And it's not really a surprise that Charlotte seems to be more comfortable doing promos on Raw, because, I mean, how many times has Sasha actually had opportunities to speak on Raw during promos? I mean, she had that, the last one I can remember, I'm sure there's been some in between. I'm just thinking of like at TLC when she did that, that 12 days of Christmas thing or whatever. And that was just terrible. So like, Charlotte's basically had an entire year to be on the mic and get that experience. And I think there is a huge difference between NXT and main roster, how you have to do your promos and everything like that. The crowd is definitely, it's a much different crowd that you have to respond to. And she's also probably being heavily more scripted than the freedom she might have had at NXT. So it's a big adjustment. And I think that plays a huge part in why Charlotte definitely outshined her in this promo.
You know, something I found really interesting, and I don't know if this is just me thinking crazy stuff, but do female talent in particular get told to speak slower on the main roster? Because I was thinking, why do I feel so weird about the Sasha promo? And then I compared it to a couple of her promos in NXT. And in NXT, she had a little bit more pacing. And in Raw, there was a lot of more pause. It was like way more. And
now that I'm thinking about it, you might be onto something.
Yeah, and then think about Charlotte. What do we keep saying about Charlotte?
It explains Charlotte.
Yeah, it's just so weird. And we have heard in the past how WWE at one point had the woman wrestle diva style, to which Sasha Banks even complained about. Is there a positive reason for this? Maybe, I don't know, for the kids, like you speak slower so they understand it a little bit more? Or I don't know, man. It's just weird how they magically speak slower.
It could just be when you're on network TV or cable TV, whatever. Maybe that's just a thing. They want people to slow down. I think when people are nervous, they tend to rush. So that could be a technique where they're telling you it's better to be slow than to talk too fast, because it definitely is going to be a lot worse if you're talking too fast. So it's probably just like a nerves thing and a TV thing. Like, it's better to talk slower than too fast.
And I think now that you mentioned that, Ryan, that could be absolutely it, because we've even made comments in the past about how the divas or the women that have come up from NXT are more susceptible to breaking character, like coming down the ramp, like especially Sasha Banks, I think, is the gold star example of how the whole illusion of the boss disappears as she's walking down the ramp at WrestleMania looking like she's about to cry. So maybe it's a nerve thing.
And the last thing I wanted to mention here, and you lightly brought it up, Keith, even though Sasha hasn't been seen on Raw for a while, she has been fully active on social media, up, down, down, on main events. She's been wrestling on non-main TV, but then she's rarely the boss. And up, down, down, she's like the nicest female. And it's just weird because I think she's the first person in a while, male or female, that, they've had this disappearance, quote unquote, when they come back. But we've been so shoehorned by them on social media that the character, for me, gets destroyed. And the character is what made me love Sasha Banks. Like her match with Bayley, how she even made the kid in the corner cry. Like all of that was magic.
Yeah,
right?
When's the last time we actually saw the boss character? Basically until tonight.
NXT was really the last time.
Because we haven't seen the boss character on the main roster. Even in her interview for WWE.com, they always do these sit-down interviews. There was something missing, and it was that edge. That edge that, hey, you can make a freaking kid cry. You can kick the other female in the head in NXT. You get rid of that. Now, I get it. You're a role model. You don't want to do a lot of that stuff. But then the boss character for me doesn't work. That is what it is. But you turn it into just a quote or an inspiration of the boss is this, that even though I'm by myself or not, that just sucks for me, because as somebody that loves Sasha Banks so freaking much, seeing her not being able to do what she did in NXT is really painful, and we've talked about this. It was bound to happen at some point because they're wrestling a lot more than they are in NXT, so maybe that's why they're doing it. But I guess I'm just going to have to go in my corner and cry.
She'll get there. I really think she'll get there. It just needs more time.
Just a little bit more time, but time is almost up to find out who Brock Lesnar is going to battle at SummerSlam. Now, this kind of sucks because the opponent will be revealed on SmackDown. Keep in mind, we record at around 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Tuesday. So SmackDown basically starts airing or starts being taped as we finish recording. So instead of talking a lot of about a lot of stuff that you guys, you listeners, male and female, are going to know already, let's just have quick speculation about who you guys think is going to face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. And is it Randy Orton, and why?
Probably.
Yeah, because let's see. This is SummerSlam, so I guess it could be anyone, really. Screw it, I'll just say Kevin Owens. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm just going to say it anyway.
Yeah,
that
I mean,
would be nice.
Really could be anyone at this point. Maybe they'll say something like Roman Reigns. You never really know. So a lot of people I've seen today have complained about the timing of this, and I personally think that it is perfect timing, especially with UFC 200 happening this weekend. The hype train is going to be freaking rolling, so why not kind of jump on that?
Yes, now you can enjoy laughing at us for how wrong we are about whoever his opponent is, and you can get our reactions on Twitter when we find out who his actual opponent is. I'm
just going to continue saying it's Randy Orton because I just don't know. I don't see anything else. Randy's been gone for a long time. It's a weird match, but as Keith said, you got to capitalize on UFC. It's happening now. If you wait later, you don't know if Brock Lesnar is going to win or not in UFC. So you got to ride off into the sunset now rather than doing it when he may lose, and then you announce an opponent that maybe people don't like, and the mystique is gone. Plus, it's Brock frickin' Lesnar. He doesn't need to follow traditional storytelling and or match announcement dates and all that good jazz.
And UFC 200, I'm so excited for it. Just want to say it one more time. I can't freaking wait.
Yeah, I mean, the hype. And is Brock Lesnar going to use his WWE theme music? I hope so, because the booing will be loud. I think they said
he could.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere that he was.
Hopefully what we read is true. So we'll have to wait and see with that. Now, guys, this is it. This is the conversation I want to have, and I'm so happy about this. Now, there is a preface for this. Now, we're not going to talk about this, but I do need to mention it. Broken Matt Hardy, the final deletion or whatever. This whole Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy storyline is concluding tonight. TNA has been doing an outstanding social media campaign, posting reactions from, Max Landis, TNA superstars reacting to watching this final battle that took place, and it's apparently ridiculous. But the reason I bring this up is that some WWE wrestlers and talent got a hold of this match during their tour of Japan. And if you notice on Raw, Bray Wyatt invited the New Day to their compound. Now, Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy are battling at the Matt Hardy compound tonight. So it begs the question of, did WWE get access to this, like it, and now they're doing something similar? The answer is probably yes. Regardless, I don't care. I'm loving this thing out right now on Raw between the Wyatt family and the New Day. What do you guys think of this, and how the final segment turned out with Xavier Woods walking out and basically teasing a possible split for the New Day?
Like I said earlier, if it's great, then why not parody it? It's great content, make more of it. But I honestly think that this feud is the best thing going in the WWE right now between the Wyatt family and the New Day. The segment itself was amazing. I busted out laughing when Big E started singing Little John lyrics. I just couldn't handle it.
Tell the wall!
And I cannot wait to see what they do with it, because if there is a team that can make the most out of that whole broken Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy dynamic, it is easily the New Day. They can put their own twist on it. They've already shown that they're not above taking shots with that mention of the Elite at the last pay-per-view. So I cannot wait at freaking all.
I like this storyline for a lot of reasons. It's got good mic workers on both sides, interesting gimmicks on both sides. There's actually some sort of inner conflict going on the side of the New Day. And then to top it all off, they're actually going to introduce, hopefully, a different location than the same locations that we see every single week for 3 hours. We spend 3 hours looking at a ring, a little backstage interview thing, maybe a hallway or something. We're always just looking at an arena for 3 hours. So to get something outside of it with these characters, I think will be really, really cool, because especially when they first introduced the Wyatt family, they had that person like going through the house or whatever.
Oh, like, yeah.
That was really cool, the way that they did that. And if they do more things like that, I mean, even when Bray Wyatt was in NXT, I mean, they were down in Florida, so it was perfect. They could use those kind of swampy areas to do backstage stuff. So it'd be nice if they do stuff like this a little more. I mean, when they do it every once in a while, that's what makes it feel special. But I think we could use it a few more times a year.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that whole interviewer thing.
They have something really special here. I think that for wrestling purists, it's not something you maybe care about, because as serious as it may be, because I believe they're going to play this off completely serious, but that's why everybody's going to be laughing at it, right? Like a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's going to be maybe like the Hulk Hogan thing in WCW, where he's going in there and then the fog and it's horribly cheesy. It could be down the broken Matt Hardy route. Either way, I'm looking forward to it. Ryan, I never thought about it like that.
They could go like a horror movie route with it too, right? You could have the New Day all walking it. They could do it like a classic horror movie or something. They split up or something.
Oh my God.
It could be amazing.
It makes sense.
It could.
Like, Scooby-Doo has to find the New Day?
No, because they've done the Scooby-Doo movies. I totally picture Kofi Kingston being like a Shaggy, and Big E's like the Scooby. It's like split up gang. Big E climbs up on Kofi Kingston when he gets scared, and then Xavier Woods is Fred. Oh my God. And JoJo can be like Daphne or something. I don't know.
Does that make Braun Strowman Velma?
Oh my God, he just needs that skirt, and it's money.
So somebody gonna get unmasked at the end? It's gonna be Hornswoggle or something.
No, it's gonna be.
It was Luke Harper all along. That's what's gonna happen.
And that's the return.
Yeah, it's gonna be Luke Harper dressed as Sister Abigail, man. Old man Harper. I'm really looking forward to this.
The New Day in the case of Ghost Sister Abigail or whatever the hell.
The case of like the chair, because the chair is magically back now. Because didn't it get destroyed a little while ago? Or did I make that
Dean
up?
Ambrose broke it, I think, right?
Or something.
So Chair Cheska 2.0 is what you're saying is happening right now.
Yes, but the interesting thing also coming out of this with Xavier Woods walking away, is this the sign of like the planting the seeds for the end of the New Day?
Yes and no. I honestly think WWE doesn't know, but if you look at not the live crowd reactions, but social media, there has been that conversation of New Day is going to go stale. Shield had this, and Shield, they teased a split, and what happened? Everybody went, no, keep them together. Even people that were saying they're becoming stale. I think it's a test for fans. Oh, you guys thought they were getting stale? What if we actually split them up? Even for a week, it could happen for like a week or 2 weeks. And then they almost go Ron Burgundy route, where Xavier Woods goes under severe depression, grows a fake beard, and then when the time comes, he's going to go springing into action. And my God, I want this to be a movie. Screw Raw. Screw SmackDown. I want this to be the next WWE movie. The New Day invade the swamp.
This is really the perfect time to do it, because if it does lead to a New Day split, well, boom, the draft is right around the corner. They have the most convenient option to make that happen. And if everybody's like, no, keep the New Day together, okay, then just draft them all to the same show.
Yeah, if they split them or not, I think I'll be okay with it. The New Day, they've had a run for over a year now, and It's been very successful. I would like to see them stay together, but if they're going to split them up, I think that's fine. I mean, they still have the tag team championships, so we have to keep that in mind. So they can't really do too much yet. They have to at least lose those titles first, and who knows? I mean, that it could happen to the Wyatt family. They may finally win those tag titles.
What if? Here's my crazy tinfoil hat moment. We haven't had one in a while. Xavier Woods is insanely talented. We saw with this Raw. The guy can make you laugh and just be completely serious at the same time while he's a great performer, loves video games. Like, he is the perfect date for Friday nights. I mean, let's just throw that out there right now. What
you
if,
have a hardcore man crush on him.
Yes.
He's amazing, man. He's amazing.
I can't even like fault you for it though.
Yes, the dude is freaking awesome. What if they don't split the New Day, as in they want to break up, but they're forced to split? And the ongoing storyline is that Big E and Kofi to continue being the New Day on show A or B, Raw and SmackDown. Xavier is on show A or B, Raw or SmackDown, the opposite show. And it's always the battle of how can they get back together. Like, Xavier Woods wants to have none of the show, and it's not until like WrestleMania, like one of these double branded shows or something, where they can finally like hug or something, and then at the end they just turn on Xavier Woods. It's like, no, man, no.
Like, he spends his entire time on Raw, like, politicking to get himself over to SmackDown or something.
Exactly.
That
would actually be kind of cool.
I kind of love that.
It would give, well, number one, you keep the New Day a thing, even if they're not together. You can continue to sell the t-shirts, all the stuff. You justify why they want to be even more ridiculous to have WWE go, hey, we got to get them back together. No, the brand is official. They finally do it, and they can either just get them back together, or if Kofi and Big E are just getting a little bit stale or something, hey, let's just turn on Xavier Woods. He becomes the ultimate babyface and eventually becomes WWE World Heavyweight Universal Champion, because we don't know what the titles are going to be called now.
And that's where it becomes one fic fantasies.
Oh, yeah. Now, the last big topic we're going to talk about Raw here is just an announcement for a match that's going to be happening at Battleground. So we were wondering what's going to happen with Cena and Styles, right? Are we just going to get the Kevin Owens treatment where it's just match after match? Some people aren't happy about this. I sure am happy, because Enzo and Cass got inserted into the mix. Therefore, we get a match between the club, who finally, hot Asian wife, man. Hot Asian wife. Am I right, fellas?
The highlight of Raw right there.
I also love how the most trending hashtag was hashtag beat up John Cena after the show.
It's been like groundbreaking. WWE actually had to acknowledge it. Like, I'm going to go have dinner and then beat up John Cena. It's ingenious. They started stuff. They show personality. Finally. Gallows and Anderson with an H, with an H, with an H, with an H, Anderson with an H. He showed personality. I'm just talk, guys. I need a break after that.
No, this is really cool because it's nice to see. We haven't seen really the club enough as a unit, especially being in a pay-per-view match together as a trio. So that's really cool. Plus the fact that they got Enzo and Cass involved, who are probably like the fastest rising team, like tag team I've ever seen. Like, get so popular so fast, and you got to credit that to just how incredible Enzo is on the mic and how entertaining he is. It's really cool, and there's that slight kind of meta thing of how Cena was actually a big part of catapulting Enzo into success, because he happened to be at an NXT when Enzo first debuted, where he literally just went out there, didn't even really know how to wrestle yet, and did a promo. So it's cool that, their first real big match is actually with John Cena. So, I mean, it makes that team a hell of a lot more likable. And it's cool that they aren't just going to Cena AJ Styles rematch. It creates a more interesting dynamic where, now it's like either one could win, whereas you'd expect Cena would get his win back if they just did Cena versus AJ.
Exactly. It creates this great scenario where everybody really has a chance to shine because of this. It's not just another great match from AJ Styles and John Cena. They can use their skills in the ring to really help amplify people like the Club with Anderson and Gallows. Cass, we've all said that he's eventually going to look like $1 million. This could be a huge step towards that. And then Enzo is in there hanging with the big leagues. That makes Enzo look great as well. And plus, with John Cena's skill on the microphone combined with Enzo Amore, I think that can lead to some amazing segments.
And you have that part of the teams, right, that we know are great on the mic. This is where, once again, you finally show off what the Club is as a group. Like, what is their dynamic? How do they interact? Because they have to do that. You have Cena and Enzo in one team talking. You have to be at the top of your game.
You have to step up.
Yeah, and if Hot Asian Wife and, I was going to say Blame Keith and beat up John Cena is a thing, I think we're in for quite a ride. And like with the draft around the corner, it's you got to think one of these two groups is going to be split up. It's got to be. Otherwise, it would be so freaking convenient. But who? I don't know. I have no idea what can happen. But this is what I'm talking about here, that initially the feedback for Raw was a little bit on the negative side. But if you really break down the key points that were worth mentioning, yes, there are things about Titus O'Neil, other stuff that wasn't all that great. But there's a really good foundation happening right now in the WWE. Now, before we continue, usually I do have announcements, ladies and gentlemen, but because we're going to get to some other stuff, we're just going to keep talking.
Whoa, Juan. It's episode 150.
Yeah, I know that, but
we need
don't
something
really
special right here.
Like
what do you mean we don't have anything? We have the most important thing right here. It's 150, it's celebratory, it's big time, big leagues, big money. So we're bringing back the biggest money shot.
Oh my
For
God.
one night only,
What?
baby.
What?
Play the bumper.
Tweet of the week.
That's right. It's Tweet of the Week time, baby.
No way!
Can you feel it?
EC
Can you feel it?
EC dub.
In your bones. It's in your bones.
Tyson and Austin.
So for one night only, here's this week's Tweet of the Week. Going back to the old well here, if you listen to some of the older ones, this was a very big favorite of mine when it came to selecting tweets of the week. So this week's tweet is from WWE Creative_ish on Twitter.
I missed you.
And they say, admit it. You were kind of disappointed that the Big Show didn't turn on America.
Tweet of the week.
Oh, and it's like Tweet of the Week never left because me and Juan are trying not to laugh the entire time.
Still got it, baby.
Oh, man. Gang, it's been a hell of a ride. As we mentioned, this is 150. We are just around the corner from 3 years of Byte That becoming a thing, building all the social media, all the YouTube channel stuff, and it's crazy, 150 episodes. We keep saying we never thought that this would grow to the length that it has, and for us, it always brings up the question, how do we keep growing? The YouTube channel Real Talk was going to be a show clip thing. If you'll scroll all the way back to the very beginning, that's what it was. It was clips for the podcast, which you would then listen on iTunes. But we realized there is so much content that the WWE puts out. We wanted to do a wrestling gameplay video. We eventually did things like Fight Night. And it's because of that and your interactions and all of this stuff. And it got us thinking, what's next? What can we do that can, number one, guarantee that you guys, everybody listening, knows our commitment? We are in this to keep making this better each and every day. And how can we grow directly with you? So without further ado, the huge announcement is that we are officially launching a Patreon campaign for Byte That, not just the YouTube channel, but all of Byte That. Why? Because we got to figure out a way, and we have, I believe, figured out a way to get more content for everybody. We talk about the SRTs, right? Maybe you're somebody that's on iTunes. You're always on the road, and you don't have time to access the YouTube channel. You don't have to, maybe. With some of the things that we're planning on doing, we can develop a second official Byte That RSS feed. And Ryan, like, what do you think? What are the possibilities with that RSS feed?
Yeah, so there's a ton of potential. We have created a certain tiers in which if you want to support Byte That, let me make one thing clear. So Patreon, yes, it's, if you want to monetarily support us, you can, and there will be benefits involved. And we also have goals as well when we hit certain points in which we'll be rolling out new things from Byte That. But one thing we want to make clear is every piece of content that we put out, any video, any audio, piece of audio, will always be free. And anyone who wants to support us monetarily will get different types of benefits and stuff, such as shout outs or access to our Patreon feed, which is going to kind of have some collaboration with coming up with ideas for new videos, as well as certain things like early access to some videos that are, you can get it a few days before everyone else. And some of our goals we're really excited about are things like Juan said, getting a secondary audio feed for those audio-only listeners who would like to hear some of our SRTs. And in other videos, we've done things like, looking at careers of like Kane and Randy Orton.
Draft.
Things like the draft. Yeah, so plenty of things that maybe audio-only listeners have been missing out on. And one of our other goals, which is often requested, is actually for Byte That on YouTube to actually go to a video format very similar to our SRTs. So that is one of our goals. So if you want to go and check it out, go to patreon.com/Byte That. You can see all the information there. So if you want to support us, we definitely think we give you some value in return. We don't like to ask for money unless we're giving something back. And we think we have a lot to give back.
Exactly. We sat down and we thought about how do we grow? How do we get bigger from here? Because at the end of the day, we love doing this, probably more than most things. And an end goal would be doing this full time for a living. And I think that would be pretty sweet. So Patreon really seems like the best way to go about that and to make that happen. And one of the best things is everything that you see there over at the Patreon page, that's only the beginning. We have a bunch of other things planned, and really the sky is absolutely the limit with that. So it can go anywhere.
Yeah, and removing Patreon aside, we simply want to grow. And we want to grow directly with you guys. Like Keith said, we have so many ideas, like 12-hour wrestling video game marathon streams where like Fight Night, but we're just celebrating, playing No Mercy, playing a lot of stuff while we talk wrestling. We always get comments like, hey, why did you guys do Byte That in person? Well, it's kind of impossible because we're in 3 completely different areas, but this allows us to directly work with you as opposed to us having to go into other platforms. We think that this is the best way. So anybody that has any questions, just send us a tweet, bytethatcast@gmail.com. We're more than super open about being very transparent. This is not paywalling, as Ryan said. Every content available is going to be accessible to all of you. Thank you so much for supporting us. And the celebration is going to continue. But if you want to check out the Patreon, it's patreon.com/Byte That. You can pledge on whatever tier you think fits best based on your needs for acquiring Byte That content. And some of the content, now I am going to get to a couple of announcements. So what can you expect this week? Because we're celebrating Byte That, we want to celebrate Fight Night with possibly its last video where we go behind the scenes for over 30 minutes on video. It's Ryan, Keith, and myself. We're talking about Fight Night. That's available right now in early access. It's going to be available on Friday on the YouTube channel. Next week, we are going to have our WWE draft prediction. That's going to be happening right here on the podcast, sort of who's going to go where, what's going to end up happening. And, it's been quite a ride, right? Like, you brought up the tweet of the week, Keith. We've had some things happen on the show that some have been great, but then it's hard to keep up. Some other ideas are not necessarily all that great, but we sort of forget about them. Like, what would you guys say has been sort of the learning experience so far as a whole from Byte That for you?
I mean, it's been a combination of a lot of things. I mean, just learning to get comfortable talking on the microphone and kind of going through your thoughts and things like that, which I'm doing terrible right now articulating, but that is something that is, you know, we've come a long way. Go back and listen to episode 1 or episode 2 versus now. And I think you can say that we've all come a long way. I was pretty much whispering the first time, the first like 20 podcasts or whatever.
I had to keep yelling at you or telling you on camera, like, dude, raise your voice. I can't hear you. So little things like that. What about you, Keith?
No, it's exactly the same thing. Just growing as a person while doing this podcast, taking the thing that I love, somewhat maybe, which is wrestling, and turning it into something positive for everyone out there to listen to. And doing it with you guys has been a great part of it as well. This is like my poker night. This is like my guys' night, getting together and being able to hang out with y'all and talk about that thing that we love, which is wrestling. Plus, from a personal growing thing, it's been fun. How we brought up the tweet of the week earlier. There's been some things that like we've experimented with, for better or for worse, and haven't really filled that slot to the best of its ability. Like the pick of the week was an example where,
ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the pick of the week.
You know, it was a cool idea, very awesome to like, oh, let's find a piece of content we can recommend, but not very sustainable. It was a fun couple of weeks. And then another great example of that is the SCAF. The name that I came up with in literal 2 minutes before the show. The Squared Circle Awesome Feature. The SCAF. And while the SCAF wasn't maintainable very long, it was almost, to me anyway, it felt like a dumbed down version of the tweet of the week, because you're taking out the the personal aspect of it, and oh, here's a squared circle comment. The one thing that was amazing about the SCAF was something that a listener, Roach McPoach, sent in, and that was the intro to the SCAF that he made for us, which you will hear right now.
I'm a SCAF man.
SCAF.
Scaf infection.
It's the SCAF.
SCAF.
I'm a SCAF man.
SCAF. SCAF. SCAF.
It's the SCAF.
I'm a SCAF man. Yeah, I mean, that's just one of the amazing things that we've seen from our creative listeners out there. Roach McPoach, one of the original Byte That listeners. I mean, he goes way back.
He was there before a lot. He believed in us before we believed in us.
Yes.
And yeah, just other cool things like the fact, we did that fight night Twitch stream where we had the marathon, and the fact that we made a Supercock t-shirt, and the fact that USC Punk, one of our one of our regular listeners, has a Supercock t-shirt in his possession,
which is a Fight Night character.
I don't know if he goes out into public with it, but he does have it. He should.
No, little things like that. And I remember during our part of the 12-hour Extra Live Marathon that we had last year, because Nicole and I did 50-50 with that. I did part of it on the Byte That stream, playing some wrestling games and all that. We had a community member called Veteran Matt J, and now he not only works with Nicole, myself, and I in Press Pause, but he was actually part of a Fight Night video. He's the one that did the voiceover, and just crazy things like that. In episode 100, True Prince of Pro, I mean, like, that was the first time that we actually thought about people like make us part of their daily routines. Here's somebody that took his time to quiz us about ourselves, and apparently we don't know anything about ourselves because we were way off.
I'm not shocked by that.
Yeah, we were trying to guess certain quotes and who said what, and we got a lot of them wrong, surprisingly.
Yeah, like, I basically hang on to myself by a thread, so the fact that I got all of mine wrong doesn't shock me.
Yeah. The best thing I can say for myself for Byte That is that I'm somebody that comes from a production background, and I get to put that in practice here. But as opposed to working on a film that maybe goes on a festival or something like that, you know, out there where you don't necessarily have a lot of control, with here, everything we do from the podcast to the YouTube videos to everything, you guys comment or tweet us immediately afterward. And we know, oh, this is working. Oh, this is not. Maybe this is where we should go. And you don't get that anywhere else. Like, that's why I love, you know, just like whenever it's something related to the internet, because you get that type of experience. Now, there are different situations that sometimes happen that could basically kill off a show. And there's at least one of those two things. One of those two things did air. And that thing was created by, I must call him out, Mr. Ryan McNulty. With the one segment that we continue to reference. And that happened how long? Like 2 years ago.
It was episode 17. If you're referring to fanfic fantasies. And yes, I thought it was a good idea to read some S.H.I.E.L.D. fanfic with some relations going on, and you know, turns out that wasn't a good idea.
So with all this time in between then and now, why was that a good idea?
Because I thought it would be funny, and you know what, it was pretty funny.
Was it?
Yes. Just because it was funny doesn't mean I think we should ever do it again. But it was kind of funny.
It was painful, and Keith walked out on us, man. He was in pain. He cried.
I couldn't handle it. It was too much for me.
But yeah, with other stuff for Byte That, we interviewed JTG, so we got to interview
How crazy is that?
Yeah, WWE Superstar. Last week, we actually didn't talk about this. We got a tweet from a documentary called New Girls on the Block or something like that. It's basically about the women's wrestling movement, and it's a documentary. And they sent us a tweet that we were quoted in the documentary. And let's be honest, we sort of thought that was fake. But then Nicole actually looked through the documentary on Amazon Prime and saw that we were quoted from an episode back in January talking about Becky Lynch. The fact that us talking about wrestling for about an hour a week has gotten us to the point where, you know, somebody listened to what we said and is like, hey, you know, that's worth mentioning. And it really is thanks to the motivation of everybody, because if
I'm not
you guys
actually
didn't get involved,
capable of wrapping my head around that.
Yeah.
It's so crazy.
And the fact of the matter is, if it wasn't for everybody listening, none of that would happen, because we would just go like, okay, so cool. Maybe we shouldn't do more stuff. The reason we, number one, started to do more videos and content and things like the Patreon is because you guys started asking for it. So ask and you shall receive. So,
and I think that's kind of the biggest whole moral to this story, kind of going with what Juan just said, that all of this is possible because of, if you are listening to this right now, this is possible because of you. And really, thank you. We can't, I mean it from the bottom of my heart, my cold, dark, black heart. I mean it. I love you for it. And without you, we are just three guys talking into a microphone into the void. So all of this is possible because of you. Viewers like you.
Viewers like you. But yes, thank you guys for making Byte That possible.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. And that's like the thing we got coming up right now, your questions, which you can send them over on Twitter, Byte That Cast, with the hashtag AskBT. Shoot us an email, bytethatcast@gmail.com. Or if you want to make yourself a little bit easier in the live region, just go to bytethat.com. That's a terrible transition. Or just leave a comment.
In the life region.
In the live region. Or simply drop a comment on YouTube. But this is why the questions happen, because you guys brought us here, and now we brought you here. So, like, Keith, just...
All right, I'm saving
another
you
transition.
Here.
Thank you. Thank you. I tried.
Our first question comes in from James L., who asks, the male superstars have been transformed into female versions of themselves. Who would be the most interesting in seeing? I said that wrong, didn't I? Who would you be the most interested in seeing? That wasn't James L. I'm talking from me to you right now. That was not your fault. That was my fault. I failed there.
Ryan, who would you want to go out with? Like Triple H?
Oh my god, this is a weird question.
Okay, so
A female
let's
version of
define seeing. We're talking about as a performer on
as
a weekly
performer.
television
I thought
show.
just
Not
like
dating.
aesthetically, who would I be most interested in seeing?
Oh yeah. I got
I don't
an
know.
easy one.
I mean, if we're going for appeal, why not see a female Xavier Woods, right? We all got the man crush. So is that like the ideal woman?
Don't let me in. My New Day man crush isn't on Xavier.
it's the booty.
It's the booty.
Oh yeah. For me, it's pretty easy. It would have to
Just
be Bray
imagine
Wyatt.
that chest, right?
Oh yeah. Right. Oh god. Now, minus the beard, a female Bray Wyatt would be incredibly interesting to see how that would play out. Like the character, the fact that, keep everything about that, minus the whole male part and the beard. Remove those things and make that a character like the cult leader. Don't even have her be involved in her wrestling capability and just call her Sister Abigail. It's made for it.
Or hey, what about the
Wow.
Shield? Remember they were actually originally like a female trio?
Yeah. Crazily enough, it
That would have
involved,
been. I don't even know how that would have worked.
it was Paige. Was Emma involved in that? I saw the
don't
promo,
remember.
but yeah, Paige was one of them.
See, now you mentioned the Shield, and that's actually part of my answer, where Seth Rollins. I mean, Seth Rollins is a beautiful man. I'm sure Seth Rollins would be a beautiful woman. Very talented.
With or without the golden streak of hair?
Does it matter?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't matter to me. So
You
thank
love
you for
him
the
however.
question. Our next one comes in from TMK Tanner, who asks, a continuation of last week's question. What you gonna do when they come for you?
Blame Keith.
And I'll do a
Run
barrel roll.
away!
All right. Blame me, do a barrel roll, and run away. That's all it answers. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Damian S., who asks, hey guys, thank you for the great podcast. You do a great job. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
After the WWE started to name Seth, Roman, and Dean the man, the guy, and the dude, what would you call the single members of the BT stable? So us, what would our names be?
Ryan, you're single.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Cheap
Shots
shot.
fired.
I'm the heel. I'm the guy. I'm the guy.
You were not the guy.
No, you're not.
What
Actually,
am I
wait,
then?
no. Well, no.
Yes. No.
No.
Maybe.
No.
you're-
Perhaps.
Wait, so we can only use the guy, the man, and the dude? Is that what we're doing?
Let's maybe limit ourselves to that. Like, if we
Okay.
had to choose between those three,
Well, I'm the man. Juan's the dude. And Ryan's the guy.
I'm the guy? I feel like Juan's the man. Keith is the dude. I guess I'm still the guy.
Keith is totally the guy because
I'm the man.
he's part of this, but then just something naturally speaking makes people just hate Keith. It's just there, so he's the guy. And
Oh,
then
that's
I'm
right.
the
He's
man.
like the Roman Reigns. I wasn't thinking of
the
who
man.
they represented in the Shield. I was just thinking
Yeah,
of the
I
terms.
wasn't
on the
factoring that
terms
in at
alone.
all. I'm the man. Hard stop, period.
Okay, so officially, what are we, Ryan? What's the consensus here?
Consensus is Keith is the man,
Yep.
Juan is the dude, and I am the guy.
Checks
Okay.
out. All right. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Des Payne. And they ask, hey guys, great podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Question. It was a shock when the Shield triple threat was made at Battleground. It was seen more as a Mania SummerSlam worthy main event. Do you think that it's being used on Battleground to make room on the SummerSlam card for some huge surprise signings and dream matches for some big names coming back for the brand split? If so, who would you like to see? I'm hoping for Kurt Angle, CM Punk, or Jeff Hardy.
Jeff is not going to happen because of the whole TNA scenario, but we've talked about Kurt Angle And as the time continues to go by, he's been very open in multiple interviews and conventions about that. So, I mean, if I had to pick between that list, it would definitely be Kurt Angle.
Yeah, I mean, what if he's the surprise Brock Lesnar opponent? I don't want to say anything else now because everyone already knows. I think the Shield triple threat basically stands, as I said earlier, where the Shield triple threat is happening at Battleground to sell Battleground. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't going to be some big matches at SummerSlam, but I don't think we're going to see anything like Kurt Angle. Definitely not CM Punk or Jeff Hardy. I think, we're going to get, obviously, like Brock Lesnar versus somebody, and we'll probably get some sort of combination of the Shield again in a title match, although depending where the brand split goes, and probably going to see the crowning of the secondary champion, whoever
That's a very good point. That'll be the first pay-per-view for that championship, so that'll probably be a big one. But yeah, I don't think the fact that the Shield triple threat is happening at Battleground is to make way for some sort of big return. I just think that the WWE is so all in on this whole Brock Lesnar UFC 200 thing that the Shield triple threat is happening now to get it out of the way for Brock Lesnar main eventing SummerSlam. Because if the Shield triple threat does not main event the show it happens on, that is a travesty. So even if it is on a B-level pay-per-view, it's still a main event, and people will remember it as a main event, and I think that's the important part. So whoever this opponent is for Brock Lesnar, that all of you out there in listener land know who it is, that is who is going to main event SummerSlam with Mr. Lesnar. As far as returns go, I think we will see Kurt Angle one day, CM Punk probably not. If so, then maybe like 5-10 years ago. And I am still of the mind that Jeff Hardy should never come back to the WWE. He doesn't deserve it. He had his chance. Jeff blew it. End of story. I take a very firm stance on that.
Brother Nero!
Let him go quietly into that dark night over in TNA. So thank you for the question. Yeah. Our next one comes in from Amir W. Not much of a question, but I loved it so much that I'm going to read
he's
it
got
anyway.
a badass last name, War.
War.
Is that his actual name?
I don't know.
That is badass.
If it is, sir, you are War. War.
War is Amir.
War is Amir. It is not Raw. But yes, he says, "Hello, guys. I enjoy listening to you every single week. No doubt your podcast is one of the best podcasts in the whole World Wide Web."
Thank you.
Thank you.
Damn.
I think you guys didn't give enough credit to Keith, who
this is why this
predicted
is on here.
the outcome of the Money in the Bank main event scene fully. I did do that, didn't I? If you go back to the episode prior to the Money in the Bank show, Keith actually said that not only Ambrose will win the briefcase, he would cash it in on the same night, and he would do so on Rollins because it wouldn't make sense to cash it in on a face like Reigns. He actually listened to the podcast after watching Money in the Bank, and it was simply amazing to hear this prediction. Way to go, Keith. From now on, you should call him Keith the Fortune Teller or
Don't
Keith
feed his ego.
the Wizard. I am a wizard, not
Keith
like a lizard wizard.
The wizard.
So that wasn't even a question. You just wanted to put that on there to put yourself over.
Yep.
Keith things.
Just
Keith,
me
okay.
thanks.
Keith, we gotta hand it to you.
Give it to me right now.
Did it. I would punch you, but that would just break my monitor, and this podcast would never make air. So, way to go, man.
All right. You get a little teeny golf clap.
This is gonna
All right.
mess up your editing, but
So be it.
there it is.
I just wanna bask in it for a moment. Just breathe it in.
Breathe in the A's.
Feels good, man. So thank you for the comment. Our next one comes in from James P. Our next question, I should say, comes from James P., who asks, "Great show as always, guys. Thank you. Question for the podcast. How would you go about introducing a friend into pro wrestling?"
weird how we've gone so long without this question, and I think this is the hardest question to answer.
It really is.
How were you guys introduced into wrestling, generally speaking?
So
was it from a friend?
all right, for me, it's actually an interesting story, but then I'll actually go into how I got some of my friends into wrestling, which I did not anticipate. Basically, I had a friend who was really into wrestling during the Attitude Era, and I was like, oh, it's stupid, it's fake, whatever. I never cared about it. I only liked playing the video games. And then one night I was just bored and I turned on my crappy CRT TV and SmackDown was on and I just watched it. And I can still remember it was an episode where the Dudley Boys put The Rock through a table or whatever, and then he came back at the end of the show and beat the crap out of people. Anyway, I watched that. I was like, oh, that wasn't too bad. I was like, you know what? I'll watch it next week. So I just turned on the TV, same time next week, started watching it again, and then kept watching, and then I was hooked on it. As far as getting friends into it, I was a huge wrestling fan all throughout high school, and none of my friends that I actually went to high school with could give a damn and always gave me crap for liking wrestling. And then way after I graduate college and all that, I take one of my friends I say, oh, you know what? Let's just go to a wrestling show. They're fun to go to even if you don't watch regularly. So he actually started watching Raw to kind of like prep for the show so he'd know somewhat of what was going on. We go to the show, it's a good time, and then he just kept watching, and then because we were watching, some of my other friends started watching again, and then it kind of went from there. So actually having someone to talk to definitely goes a long way too.
Yeah, for me, I can't say I managed to persuade a lot of my friends. What I did do, however, was get a couple of friends back into wrestling. Friends that, like Ryan brought up, the Attitude Era. That was the big boom period. So during the CM Punk era, the Summer of Punk WWE version, I got a couple of friends back in there. With the New Day, I was able to persuade a couple of friends that they enjoyed more ridiculous type content, so I played a couple of videos there, and that got them in there. I think the issue is that wrestling, especially, I brought up the fact that Raw is 3 hours to non-wrestling fans or previous wrestling fans, and they just look at me and start laughing like there's no way I'll watch that. So I do think there's some kind of barrier of entry. It is interesting when I have seen people sit down and watch it and they enjoy it because they're not overexposed to it. They haven't seen Big Show in 1,000 matches like we have. So to them, it's new. So I think the best thing is don't have them watch the show, but don't feed them necessarily who you like or don't, because you're thinking about it from the sense that you've been watching for 10, 15, even just 5 years, as opposed to somebody that's watching it for the very first time and they don't know if they like high flying or brawler action or something like that. But NXT is a good, maybe soft way to introduce them to current product, because then eventually those guys get called up so they can feel like, they witnessed the evolution of a character.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right on that one. If you were to take somebody that's never seen wrestling before and kind of ease them into it, I would stay away from people like AJ Styles and The Club, even like Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens, not so much, just because we love them through the lens of we've seen them for years and know how great they are. Somebody might not be able to pick up on that right away. If I were to choose a certain I would take one of two approaches. If the person's like into big, likes fights and that kind of stuff, the first thing I would introduce them to is Brock Lesnar, because that is somebody, Brock Lesnar sells himself in a heartbeat on what Brock Lesnar can do. It's a very easy pitch, and if you like Brock Lesnar, here's all the different stuff you can see with Brock Lesnar. And if they're more into humor, I would show them something like The New Day, or even show them the whole Brother Nero broken Matt thing going on TNA.
I don't know if I'd show that.
just
totally
as a way,
would.
just to show them as a way, like, this is how wrestling doesn't take itself too seriously. This is how ridiculous it can get. And as far as watching the product, there is no way I would recommend somebody start watching Raw, as I will sit and watch it, but I would honestly say to somebody, go watch the YouTube version of WWE programming. You can get the bite-sized stuff. maybe even the Hulu version for that, or like as a kind of middle ground where you get the important stuff. You can use that as a starting point. And hey, if you want to try and tackle this crazy 3-hour show, then go for it. But yeah.
Yeah, one thing is, hey, go to a house show. See if you like it. I mean, if you don't like the action in the ring, then you're probably not going to stick around for everything else. So, house shows pretty cheap to go to, and it's a good way to kind of experience the action without, you don't really have to know any stories or anything. They make it pretty clear, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, and you just watch it and have fun.
Yeah, I recently took a very good friend of mine to a house show that doesn't watch wrestling on a weekly basis, and he had a blast. Just ask questions when necessary, but just to see all the different characters and just to see them do their thing, it was an enjoyable experience. So yeah, that's also a really good way to introduce somebody to it. And just to mention it as well, how I personally got into wrestling was the most random episode of Raw one week was on television, and the match itself I will never forget, even though it's the most forgettable match, was Mark Marrow versus Farouk for the Intercontinental title. That is the match that hooked me when I was 5 years old on professional wrestling.
Wow.
Seeing the Wild Man do that shooting star press hooked me. So yeah, I can thank Mark Marrow for all these years of my life, I guess.
A quick way to say how I started watching wrestling was that I watched very few of WWF at the beginning. As I mentioned, I didn't have the channel, but I watched a couple of matches because wrestling culture is a thing in Puerto Rico. You see some wrestling masks. My family from my father's side used to watch a lot of Dula the Butcher, etc. So I did have that influence. But then all of a sudden I stopped getting TNN, and then I saw this guy named Rey Mysterio on screen. And then he was feuding with this dude called Eddie Guerrero. A little bit before that, I started playing some of the WCW games on PS1. I didn't even know what they were doing. In Super Nintendo, I played some of the Raw games. Once again, I didn't know too much. So it's a little weird. I can never pinpoint exactly when I started watching. I know I saw a match between Lita and Chyna at some point. I know I saw the Rey Mysterio thing. But as far as like when I got hooked like directly, it had to be the Cruiserweight division in WCW. That just blew my mind, and I never cared about Hulk Hogan. Never.
So here's a kind of funny, embarrassing story about Little Keith, where that match that I talked about, Mark Marrow versus Farouk, I actually I recorded that on VHS and had a copy of it. It was only that match from that Raw. The actual tape cut off later when this, I think it was TL Hopper came out and fought Triple H or Hunter Hearst Helmsley at the time. There's some dude that kind of looked like a drill sergeant that had like camo face paint. That's when the tape cut off. But I had that match, and I would show it to my friends. And me and my friends would try to reenact that match. We would beat each other up the same way that Mark Marrow and Farouk beat each other up in that match. So if you're listening right now, go back and watch that match, Mark Marrow versus Farouk for the Intercontinental title on some Monday Night Raw. And just picture little me beating up my friends, or me getting beat up by my friends, trying to recreate that match.
I'm just amazed.
Beat up Keith.
Yeah, I'm just amazed at that. You studied a match between Mark Marrow and Farouk.
Yeah, it's the most random
probably
match
the
to
only
idolize.
person in the world. It's so weird, and that hooked me. I'm so strange, but nonetheless, thank you for the question.
We just need Farouk to just walk in and just go, damn.
I bet you Farouk doesn't even remember that match.
Or Mark Marrow.
But yes, thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Zach Hardy, who asks, my question for the podcast is a simple one. If you could give any WWE performer currently on the roster their release papers today, who would you choose?
Oh, man. This is mean.
I don't like these questions. I don't like to make someone lose their job.
Yeah.
But there's a different spin to it. Because when I first read this, I saw it much in the line of Drew McIntyre, guys that, honestly, you can do probably a lot of money outside of the WWE, and you can re-Christian yourself, I guess is one way you could say it. And I think a guy like Zack Ryder and Dolph Ziggler could be huge for the independent scene. He can continue doing his comedy career. Like, there's a lot of guys that they're doing some other stuff. It's not like WWE's the only thing they do. And somebody like a Dolph Ziggler and Lucha Underground and TNA, anywhere else, traveling across the world would be very interesting as somebody that we love to watch for such a long time, and now we've grown so dull on him. Just unleash that potential. Let's see what's out there. I'm looking
that's
forward to
actually
Cody Rhodes.
an amazing example. And I actually did a video a couple months ago about Dolph Ziggler. He was considering leaving WWE, and I think he ended up re-signing, obviously. And I think I was talking about how there could be a lot of opportunities for him outside of WWE where he could become more successful. So I think you sold me on that. I would definitely also have to pick Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, I think Dolph Ziggler, as far as male talent goes, is really the only one that's left that didn't get released recently that really falls under that umbrella. Because my other answers to the question, to go on Juan's train of thought, would have been people like Cody Rhodes, would have been Sandow, that now have been released and have those opportunities, and I think that they will flourish doing so. But yeah, Ziggler's kind of the only one left. I would say either him or Natalya. Have Natalya go to other places in the world if she wants to continue wrestling, just to like get a solid women's run in. If she could, just out of for curiosity's sake, to see what would happen. I think that could be very interesting. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Jack, who asks, what would be your entrance theme?
I believe my answer to this question in the past is the same one from now. Wait, was I the dude in the answer? I was the dude,
Yes,
right?
you were the dude.
Let's connect this.
And oddly enough, my pick for a theme would be Dude Loves theme. Because oh my God, it actually works. Okay, yeah. Previous question was validated.
All right. This is tough.
I think the only correct answer is Darude Sandstorm.
Yeah,
Just as a troll. Just as a troll pick.
I agree. I would probably
Do you not
go
know
with
what
the.
that song is?
I know what Darude Sandstorm is. Come on,
I'm
now.
a little lost, but I'm okay.
Just look it up after the show. To trail on Ryan's answer, because I don't have a good one of my own, I will say the Coco song.
I'm in love with the Keith Go.
Oh, that song?
Yeah. It'll work.
Baking soda. I got baking soda.
Indeed.
Canadian bacon. I've got Canadian bacon.
Indeed, you do. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Renus M. Now, Juan, I'm going to let you take this one.
Yes.
And you should be thanking me. It's episode 150. It's special.
Yes.
So I'm going to give you a pass this week.
Okay, Keith, I'm curious. This question, for the record, is in Spanish. Now, because it's easy for me to read something in Spanish, Keith, I am curious to hear you read the part that I have highlighted for this question. Go. However it comes out, man, I don't care. Just do it.
All right. First of all, to our Spanish-speaking listeners, I sincerely apologize. Please do not take offense to this, because if there is some offense, I do not mean it in any way, shape, or form. Okay. Hola, Juan. Que peñazas que el cien significa con Andrade cien almas, en mi opinión, cero que está recondaliado.
I can't talk right now. You got like 2 words. You got Ola right. So there's... Oh, I'm crying right now. Okay, so... Renes, I'm just going to finish the question. Con cada rival que derrota, él absorbe su alma y habilidades. Gracias, Juan, y tienes razón. La culpa la siempre tiene Keith. Completely true. The question's basically, and I'll answer in English for the benefit of everybody.
No, translate for the people that don't speak Spanish. What did it say? What did I say, and what did it say?
I don't know what you said. I really can't make out what you said. The question's about Andrade Cien Almas from NXT. The fact that his nickname is Cien, 100 in English, and then Almas, his last name translates to soul. So it's Andrade 100 souls. So he's speculating about what is it, if it's related to maybe previous rivals that he's had that he's absorbed, you know, after defeating or something, and he's gained their ability. So he's basically Mega Man in some kind of way. And then he also says, yes, always blame Keith. So that's probably my favorite part. Even internationally speaking, people are blaming Keith. But for the Cien Almas thing, yes, because I don't really know what else to think. I mean, it's somebody that's just starting out. For those that don't watch NXT, I think that this guy is a great prospect. I even brought him up in my Byte That mock draft. However, he's got the crappiest freaking finish combination. Have you seen it, Ryan? Because I know you don't watch too much NXT.
I've not, but he must have taken the Godfather's soul to get that hat with the feather.
Yes. But I just want to point out his finishing move.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But man, his finishing move's so bad. It's like the guys in the corner, like ready for like a stink face or Bronco Buster, that type of stuff. But then he runs and then quote unquote knees him. But
I think
really
I did see that at he did a takeover, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what I hate is the setup. He does the bulldog, and then the guy magically feels like going to the corner every time for that. And I'm like, man, like, can't you figure out a setup?
So it's an even worse thing than the John Cena clothesline and the 5 moves of doom.
Yes, because you're getting hit in the middle of the ring, yet for some reason, you feel the necessity to go into the same corner. Doesn't matter who you are. You know his finishing move. He's going to hit you with it. Why don't you
Why
roll
does he
out?
just do like what Rikishi did? He'd throw him in the corner. He just like hit him, and then they would just sit down. They would drop down.
Yeah,
you know?
or
Just drop kick them into it. Buddy has a good drop kick. Why not do that?
We got to tell him that, so we'll send out a tweet. Maybe we can get him to change his moveset a little bit. But muchas gracias, Renos, por siempre apoyarnos. Te quiero mucho y sí, quizá el peor. Go on.
Yes, what Juan said. I'm like the pit bull of blame. That's what I wanted to say earlier. I'm Mr. Worldwide. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from Christian W., who asks, what was your guys' first live show? Keep up the amazing work and looking forward to 150. Well, I hope we haven't disappointed.
My first live show was a Monday Night Raw in 2001, I want to say. It was shortly after WrestleMania 17. Like, this was the episode where the Hardy Boys fought Austin and Triple H when they were the whole 2-man power trip. And actually, I think Stephanie McMahon and Lita were also involved. So it was a 6-man tag. So much stuff happened. Like, that Raw, it's like you had Austin, Triple H, and Stephanie teaming up against the Hardy Boys and Lita. I know there was stuff with Regal, Jericho, and He Who Must Not Be Named going on, the Dudley Boys. Like, there was just so much star power packed in this one card. And people were so mad at Austin back then at the end of the show when they beat the crap out of the Hardy Boys and Lita. I'm pretty sure, I think Triple H might have pedigreed Lita or something in that. But anyway, people were just like throwing food and bottles and all that, which you like never see today. But like people were legit heated. Also, Right to Censor was there. Kind of love them. Yeah.
For me, my first official live event was a TNA taping in Orlando. It was bad. They taped multiple episodes of Impact, and Jeff Jarrett came out like 7 times. And it was weird how he was just beat. Bad, man. Dude, like, he just got beaten up. 30 seconds later, he walks out like, what? Wrestling matches? No, and like 4 times. This is back when he was doing the whole TNA management. And he kept going over to Mike Tenay, and I'm like, man, this is worse. But they, just to clarify, they did later have a house show in Puerto Rico that was awesome. My first WWE live event was actually a pay-per-view, Elimination Chamber. It was New Year's Revolution happened here in Puerto Rico. That was the chamber where Redacted, a.k.a. Chris Benoit, did a diving headbutt off of the cell. The cell, I think it looks a little small in person. And I had a direct view of Randy Orton's ass. So it was just super weird how...
And how did that make you feel?
Man, like, I was trying to look everywhere else, but it was right there. That and Lita and Eugene got injured. It was a terrible night. It was not a good show. People kept getting injured. It was bad.
So I didn't realize this until much, much later in life, but my first show was actually a pay-per-view where it was In Your House 4 at the old Winnipeg Arena, where Bret the Hitman Hart fought Isaac Yankem.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
Right? That one was a dark match, but I had to look up the card because I didn't remember it. I don't remember it all that well. I think this was actually even before I actually got hooked on wrestling. I think my parents took me to it, and I was kind of like, about the whole thing. But yep, my first was a pay-per-view, and it didn't hit me until about 15, 20 years later that it
what
was
a show. What a match.
Right?
Wow.
The main event was the British Bulldog versus Diesel for the WWF Championship. Good times. Good times. So thank you for the question. Our next one comes in from both NKBE1324 and Nightlife HD. And they ask, what is your favorite part about doing the podcast?
For me, aside from hanging out with these fine gentlemen and interacting with our listeners, this is sort of like it's almost like a way to vent and kind of air, like just, it's very therapeutic, because weeks I don't do the podcast and I watch any type of wrestling, I'm like, oh, I can't talk about that. Like, I have to wait a week before I can talk about it. So just being able to give my thoughts and opinions and interact with these guys and kind of bounce off each other with ideas, it's just very fun.
For me, it has to be finding an objective path about talking about a storyline. Like, for example, in my part of the podcast is more of the moderator, right? So I got to try to figure out, maybe Keith hates something, but do you hate it on a personal level, or is it because it's a bad storyline? And it's sort of figuring out how to nitpick your brains about getting us to understand something. Like, this episode was a really good example, right? A lot of people crapped on the 4th of July episode of Raw, but was it really bad, or was the patriotic stuff kind of hitting? I still disagree with that.
I disagree too. That. I don't think it was nearly that bad.
But I love that. The fact that it's not as simple as easy as yes or no. It's yes, why, no, why. Save conversations, compare. And getting your feedback and seeing, oh, are we in this bubble, like with our opinions here, or do the majority of our listeners agree, or do they have a different perspective? I love getting that. I agree.
It's very challenging, and it's probably one of the things I struggle with most in actually doing the podcast, is trying to, like, figuring out what your opinion is and then taking that step further and thinking, why is it like that? So I didn't like Raw. Why didn't you like Raw? Well, do you actually hate it as much as you think you do? Well, probably not, now that I'm actually sitting down and breaking it down. It's been a very positive challenge to try and sit there or sit down and try and figure out why you have the opinions that you do, and are they actually like the same way that you think they are. I hope that made sense. But yeah, besides that, just sitting down, doing the podcast with these fine fellows every week. We've been friends for over half our lives at this point. And like I mentioned earlier, this is like my poker night. This is like my guys' night, sitting down and really just shooting the breeze about wrestling. And it's one of the things I look forward to most throughout the week. And here's to doing another 150 episodes, fellers.
It's a way to make Tuesdays not suck. Because statistically, Tuesday is like the worst day of the week. So we like to make it better.
Exactly. Garfield was off by a day. Let's be honest here.
Yes, he was. And at the end of the day, how crazy is it that the three of us started talking on a crappy WWF chat room because they were too lazy to change the F to an E about Bad Blood 2004, which I believe was an awful pay-per-view. There was no reason.
What do you mean? That was the Hell in a Cell between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. That was an amazing match.
But everything else that I recall from that show was not a good era for Raw.
Steven Richards versus Kane. It was a hell of a match.
Thank you. Yes. But who'd have thought? Like, there's no reason this should have happened. And Keith and I were even thinking about having the DWX radio show. It's still out there somewhere in GeoCities or something. Like, historically, seeds were always planted. Yes, it's there. And this happened. I mean, it's freaking ridiculous. Like, you get to, in many ways, work with your best friends / brothers / people. You know, Ryan was at my wedding. Keith was almost at my wedding, and I've slept with Keith in the same room for a week. So it's crazy stuff. And
No one knows
thanks
what
to
went
this.
on there.
No,
And no
except
one
Keith's
will ever
mom.
know.
Keith's
No
mom
one-
knows.
That is
She
true.
knows.
No one but her will
Things
ever
got
know
pretty
what happened.
wild, I guess.
Oh, they did. Let's just
It-
say we were sleeping across the street from a strip club. I wasn't allowed to go to the strip club. They didn't let me, but that's another story for another day.
Oh, don't do that. But thank you, everybody. I'm just going to point out, Keith did at many points stare out that window and cried. Not cry, but he actually did stare out the window. But everybody watching or listening, thank you so much. This has been a groundbreaking episode. I will now leave the floor to Mr. McNulty, who will soothe you with his closing thoughts.
Thank you, Juan. I will indeed soothe you guys, because thank you for listening to episode 150 of the Byte That Podcast. It's pretty crazy that we've done 150 of these, but just to close things out, we're going to make it pretty brief. This episode was so jam-packed, we didn't even tell you that the brand new ByteThat.com it's out there now. Go check it out. We think it's a much slicker design, and while you're checking out ByteThat.com, you can see all of our social media there available. So I don't have to berate you with linking everything. Just go to ByteThat.com. It's all right there, along with the Patreon, which just launched. So you can go to patreon.com/ByteThat if you'd like to support us, and you can see all the benefits there, including early access to the behind the scenes of Fight Night Season 2, which is up there for early access right now. If not, you can check that out on the YouTube channel on Friday. But guess what? It's the end of the show, guys. I'm going rogue because you know what? It's happening, man. Fanfic Fantasies is happening. I'm editing this show. I'm hitting the bumper right now. Listen to this beautiful music. Fanfic Fantasies.
Fanfic Fantasies.
All right, here we go.
Do we have to?
AJ Styles, A Clash with Love.
Who do I get to be?
Locker room, 5 minutes before showtime. AJ paced back and forth. He knew this was going to be one of the most difficult.
No, I can't. No,
We're
please.
done. We're
Please.
done.
What? Don't.
done.
No.
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 Come on.
No.
No, I draw the line.
Leave your
no.
AJ Styles fantasies out of Byte That, man.
I can genuinely say that I do not want none of this. No.
I tried,
No
guys. I
fanfic
tried.
fantasy. No fanfic fantasy.
Bad Ryan. Bad War Machine.